Hello, welcome to Vlogmas Day 18. I can't actually think of a subtitle for a movie that hit 18. Um, I can think of a few. I can think of one movie that was the 18th in its franchise of 67. The Zatoichi Blind Masu Samurai series. That's an awesome series of movies. But we're not talking about movies today. We're talking about things that are involved in movies sometimes. Not always, sometimes. You know, I've seen a few movies where I don't think this happened in it at all. Acting! So, some people are aware, my friends, though I don't know how much they're aware of this. I'm something of a lovey. I was kind of brought up in the theatre. Back many years ago, my father was the performing arts lecturer at a college, and being a child that didn't go to school much, I went to work with my parents a lot. Now, this actually started before I started school. I was about 3 when this began. If a small child was needed for a performance, guess who had to fill that role? Ding! So, I did a lot of acting as a child. I spent a lot of time in the theatre. I still love... My memories of being in that theatre are very dear to me. And, you know, I naturally did theatre, did all the theatre stuff in school, and when I was there, I did well. When I wasn't, I wasn't. But sort of the combination of that cycle of acting, if you will, was when I was 10. Because what my dad did was he took the play that he'd put together, and it was one he'd had for years that I'd been in. Probably since I was about 3, in fact. It was a play about Dali, Salvador Dali, and how crazy he was, and I played his imaginary dead little brother. Now, as a burgeoning goth, that's an awesome role. It gets better on the goth front. So, for one reason or another that I can't really remember, we took that play with the students from the college to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Now, those of you who don't know, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival is pretty much one of the biggest independent theatre and comedy. Well, it's much more comedy these days, but there's also theatre and music and all manner of stuff. Festival in Britain, and if not the world. It's sort of up there. The Edinburgh Fringe is sort of the can of comedy these days. But back then it was theatre. So we went to this, and we, drove up to Edinburgh. Big van full of my dad, some of the other teachers there who were sort of support staff. They did lighting. They were technical guys, and these students. Now, I'm 10. These are 18-year-olds, but so naturally I had a fun time with them. A lot of them were nerds, so it's like, oh, you have this games console here. I see. Shall we play a game? We should be rehearsing. Yeah. So, the space we were performing in was an old church. That adjoined it was a lovely old graveyard. For those of you who are wondering where this might be, I can't tell you, but it's near the statue of that dog in Edinburgh. The one who stayed by his master's grave. It's the graveyard where that happened. So, if you know where that is, put that in the comments, because I'd like to revisit it one day. Yeah, you have to remember this was 14 years ago. So, we we did it. We performed for about a week solid. The Fringe is a month-long thing, but there's sort of slots to perform for a week. I think it was once or twice a day. Yeah, it was once a day with secondary performances in the evenings sometimes. And then on evenings when we weren't performing, we'd go out and see other plays. So I remember seeing like a comedy version of Lord of the Flies. That was weird. Some very strange plays, but that was I really enjoyed that time of my life. I mean, there was a lot of shit going on then, a lot of bad shit that, and sort of then there's this sort of one moment of, yeah, but we're in Edinburgh acting for a week. There's nothing else to think about. You know, I get to hang out in the graveyard, watch goth kids hang out and have sex. Yes, that did happen. And to this day, I still have a thing for stripy tights. So yeah, that was a fun time in my life. I mean, the play itself was good. Didn't get very well reviewed. I remember it was only 2 stars or something out of 5, and yeah. So that was really the last time I did that with my dad. He stopped being a performing arts lecturer. He moved into film studies after that. And before he was a performing arts lecturer, I think he was an English lecturer. He's moved around a fair bit. Well, done a couple of subjects, more than most teachers, I think. Yeah. And so I can't act anymore. Okay. So years went by, and in school, naturally, I took performing arts as one of my options for GCSEs, and because a couple of my friends wanted to do it, and basically the way I chose my GCSE options was because the way it works is the way it worked for us was you had your core subjects which you couldn't choose, English, maths, science. You had to choose a tech. And then you had 3 options. I think it was 3. And then you had like citizenship, which was a half subject. It's actually the only one I failed. I got a D in my GCSEs for that one, but it was only a half course, so it was weird. So the way I picked my courses, and I'm fairly embarrassed to say this, was I just picked the courses with the teachers I liked, because at the time I really didn't consider sort of the side courses of any importance. I was still very much on a science route in school, so like, okay, I'll just pick the teachers I like the best and have a fun time, have enjoyable lessons while I can concentrate on the other stuff, because most of the science teachers were a complete and utter bastards, and sadly so were the maths teachers. English teachers not so much. Anyway, so I ended up picking RE, Religious Studies, Performing Arts, and Art. The most wishy-washy of choices. We didn't have to pick a language because of tech, so I ended up doing metal work. I wanted to do homework. I wanted to cook things and eat them and be happy. But anyway, so I was doing performing arts, which I think actually the teacher was kind of she was kind of glad I picked it, because I was able to sort of mop up the people who didn't really want to do acting, or weren't as confident, and then sort of get them to do stuff. And that's kind of what I did for 2 years. Sort of, I was kind of put in charge of a small group of people, who were my friends, and sort of got them to concentrate, got them to focus, and got them to do acting. And I like to believe that I helped them get a decent grade. I know one of them sort of really puts it down to me. But they obviously put in the effort themselves, and I think at least one of them went on to do acting in university, and she's got really good over the years. The final thing for the GCSE was we had to put on a play, as one would do, and you could pick any play you wanted. Sort of examples were given, but you could also bring in your own, as long as it was vetted by the teacher, like me. So I chose an old script my dad did for when he was doing performing arts. It was a comedy. It was kind of a repetitive narrative that was sort of my kind of humour. It was just three people and sort of very rote lines. Sort of there was always there was lines that were repeated in each act, and you could remember them. And it was like, da 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 da. What do we do now? Because it was kind of the whole idea was that it was about boredom. So these people endlessly repeating their lives and being bored. And it was quite funny, very dry humour. So I sort of put that forward. Just like, yeah, how about this? Okay, great. So we sort of ended up plotting this out and getting all this stuff together, and programming the lights, and did a full production. Pardon me. My parched throat. So I did that, and it was wildly successful. Really funny, got good laughs out of people. In fact, we put it on 3 or 4 times, twice more than we had to, because she wanted to show GCSE stuff to other classes, and we were like, oh, sure, we'll do that. And I remember the parents, because obviously there was a parents showing, which so it's a class of 30 kids, so that's 30 plus parents, and they're all just here to see their kid. But they're all polite. But then it sort of gets to us. We're one of the last people to perform, as I recall, and it's sort of, oh, we're getting real laughs here. And I'm still kind of proud of that moment. Of course, then go out after the show, and it's sort of, my dad's like, yeah, I mean, you did this, and this wrong. Because that's the kind of guy my dad is. Anyway, so after that I kind of stopped doing acting, because I was like, alright, that's a good place to end it. Obviously I sort of, doing films, I had to act in them myself, but now we're in the sort of where we are now, and it's kind of, I want to get back into it. I feel more comfortable doing voice acting as a rule, I suppose, because I've really got a face for radio, as the old saying goes. So I've been looking into ways I can do voice acting, because me and Dan have been talking about all the kind of things we can do for the site, and one of the things I want to do is put on a regular creative spot, sort of once a month type thing, of different types of things. And one thing I'd really like to do is figure out a way that I can do plays, sort of do like a scene or two from a play over a couple of months, or even the whole play, depending on the play, and put it online for you guys, because I love, I just like to read plays in my spare time. So I think there's some really great stuff there, and I don't know about a lot of people, but as someone who's fairly clued into theatre, I find it really hard to find people putting on plays as they actually are. Sort of, have you ever tried to find a Greek play that wasn't fancied up in some way? Sort of, okay, it's the frogs, but we're making it about World War One. So I just want to see the frogs. I've never seen that performed. It's apparently hilarious. One of the funniest Greek comedies. It's like, no, we're gonna make it about World War One, because that's fun and interesting. It's like, you can only see Shakespeare unsullied at the Globe. Unsullied is the wrong word, but not messed with. It doesn't. I just would like to see these plays without the extra garlands of directorial pomp, if you will. So I've been sort of thinking about doing that, and obviously we sort of do kind of voice acting stuff with the What the Folk series, but that's coming to an end. Well, it has come to an end. But I'd like to do more of that, and I think maybe that's what we'll see in the future for Oxford included. I'm figuring out ways of doing it. Maybe like stop motion puppetry, that kind of thing. That could be fun. Or incredibly creepy. Or both. My favourite kind. So now you've learned where I've got my magnificent acting talent from, and my history therein. So, hope that gave you an insight into my madness. Thank you and good night.